All right. Well, like now they're saying, today's Tech Talk is going to be about residential design tools that are as quick as your imagination, and let's go ahead and run through a few slides here before we get started. Again, my name is Gerald Burke. I'm a application engineer here with SiteOps, and really what we're going to talk about and where SiteOps works is in the workflow. All right, so we're going to talk about the conceptual design workflow here, and you can see that there's kind of a chart of things going through here, and we're going to be able to do some conceptual designs on the fly as we go, and then we're going to go ahead and be able to generate some grading plans and stormwater designs inside of that conceptual design workflow. Okay, and then we're going to try to identify the most cost-effective design for that in that conceptual design workflow, and then really in the end, what your clients want, they want to give you for options. Okay, so they want to see what kind of different options can we do inside of that concept. Okay, now we are limited in some way in some of the tools that we have nowadays to deliver a bunch of different options. We're on different time constraints and those types of things. Setups is going to give you the ability to go through that life cycle of things. You can see that kind of arrow kind of floating around. Go through, look at some different grading options and different layout options and different and within that, look at some different costs and budgets for those types of things. Interact with your clients, get up or down on those different iterations, and then move forward to plan production. I usually tell people, this is the part of the life cycle of a project where you don't make a whole lot of money as an engineer or as a developer. Either way, right? You're just trying to figure out, what's possible on this site, and then if it's good, you get the up signal, you're going to move to plan production. Okay, and we want to be able to make this part of the project as productive as possible. Okay. All right. So some of the issues that we have in the conceptual design are we have some grading issues. So it's time versus cost. How much time do I have to spend looking at all these different designs? Okay. If I'm a developer, I have a short time clock on when I need to have these things out to bid, and or able to write contracts. I'm an engineer. I only have a certain amount of budget to be able to complete the designs in concept. Okay, and then what assumptions do I have? What do I know? And the level of detail that I'm going to go to in that concept in order to deliver to have a deliverable time frame for those things. All right, so we're going to look at this through this concept design through our residential parceling tool, and you can see some different settings and some different ideas in here for that, and then also going to be able to modify those different tools and different settings inside the tool, and this will be more apparent once we get inside the tool. And then we're going to look at some grading of those different designs, and this is the really important part. We're not only going to look at the two-dimensional design, but also three-dimensional design. Does it make sense? Am I cutting too much? Am I filling too much? What can I do to minimize those things in my layout and also in my grading settings? Okay, and then we're going to have also some 3D visualizations that we can output to things like Luminara and Google Earth and SketchUp that will really help us to move this project into the third dimension and really show people that may or may not be is good at looking at a two-dimensional design on a black and white piece of paper. Look at it in 3 dimensions so that they can understand what it is that you are doing to this site. All right. So let's go ahead and open up SiteOps here. And for those of you who don't know, SiteOps is an online tool. It's in the cloud. All of the data is stored in the cloud, and you can access it from anywhere. So it's just a username and login. You can access the tool. Generally, we start off these sites with a couple of different features. So first thing we're going to do whenever we start a project, we're going to try to geolocate that site. We're going to come up here. You can type an address anywhere here in the world, give it a address. It's going to go ahead and zoom down on the site. You can select the location of the site and get going. Now once you do that, it's going to drop this into the site, and it's going to put it, if you're in the US, it's going to put it on state plane coordinates. See that down here in the bottom left hand corner. If you're not in the US, it's going to put it on a UTM zone. Okay. Now, once it's geolocated, we have some tools up here that you can utilize. You can bring in an Esri layer or a USGS layer where this is Imagery. Okay. You can bring in, let's go ahead and bring in the world imagery. and it's going to go ahead and drape that imagery for this site into the drawing. Okay, um, since it knows where it's at in the world. Now we also have for inside the U.S. you can use the USGS topo. Okay, so we have all that topo that you can import for any particular spot, or if you're outside the U.S., you can use the SRTM topo or the SketchUp topo. Okay, and you can utilize that topo to have both the have a three-dimensional surface built inside of SiteOps. Now, if you don't have, or if you have some better information than that, you can use our file import button here. Browse, you can import DWD, DWGs, DGNs, LAN XML, shape files, those types of things in here in order to have a the better data than you have available at USGS or the other areas here. You can define property boundaries, things like that, and you can see that I brought in some GIS parcels inside of this project from the local municipality here in order to define these areas. Okay. Now you can see inside of here I have a roadway network. Okay. Built in here, you can see it's attaching to some different areas, different roads here and here. A couple connection points on this site. Okay. And then these roadway networks are have parametric designs in them. Okay, so if we go ahead and look at one of these roadway networks, let's look at some of the settings in here. You can see that it has some different settings for things like what's the cross section of that road. Okay, you can set up a cross section, different driveways, cross slopes on it. What's the curb height? Does it have sidewalk? What's the right-of-way width of that for the single-family section here? Okay, you can save those as templates and use them over and over again as well. Okay. Now, the other thing that you'll notice in here is that you have some settings over here on the right side of the screen for things like what is the crest and the sag K values, okay? What's the minimum radius along that area, okay? What's the sidewalk slopes? Okay. Does it have things like how many lanes does it have? Does it have curb? What's the curb height on it? Everything also has a material to it as well, okay? So what's the material for that for the sidewalk, for instance, in this case? And down here, if you go down here a little bit further, you can see it has a minimum maximum drive slip. That's the longitudinal slip of that particular drive path. And what is the material for that drive path, and also what is the surface depth. Because when we start to grade this, we're going to grade everything to subgrade so that we get some accurate earthwork calculations. Okay. Now, when I do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit my grading solver here. I'm going to let it start to grade. And you can see that it's, if I turn off the boundaries here, you can see there's red for cut, blue is for fill. Right, and you can see it to start to grade in here, and you can see, I have a little pond drawn in down here, some sidewalks and things like that in here. Okay. Now, this solution, you can see that down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it's going through some earth cut and fill calculations. And the way this works is there's a cost for cut, cost for fill, cost for retaining wall, those kinds of things. It's going to try to figure out what the software does is it goes through tens of thousands of iterations as we're looking at it here, and it will go through millions of iterations when we submit this for optimization in order to find the most cost-optimal solution for the site based on the constraints that we have so far, right, which is just the roadway network. Right, so let's go ahead and add some more constraints. So I'm going to go ahead and pick on an area over here. I'm going to convert this area to an area, and I'm going to go ahead and make this a parceling area. Right. So every area inside of SiteOps has some different constraints that you can attach to them, and this is a parceling area. And you can see that if I pull up and edit that parceling area, over here on the left side, as you see here, there are some 2D constraints. What's the minimum parcel surface area, the maximum depth of the parcels, maximum minimum parcel frontage offset, what's the building depth and width on here, what's the front, side, and rear setback for each lot. That's the 2D constraints that you can apply to it. And then over here on the right side, these are the three-dimensional constraints. Minimum and maximum yard slopes, front yard slopes, side yard slopes, backyard slopes. What's the depth of the backyard? What's your tie-in? Okay, and then some wall constraints down here at the bottom. Again, you can save all of these as templates. And let's go ahead and pull one up. I went ahead and set some settings in here. I can apply that now to it. Okay, and now if I go ahead and hit my layout solver up here on the top right-hand corner of the screen, it's going to solve for that area within this parcel. All right, let's go ahead and turn that on. Let's go ahead and turn off my imagery in the background so we can see. Now you can see that I went ahead and drew in all those lots. You can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that it's showing how many parcels, 177, 3 parcels per acre, as I'm showing right here. That's what the zoning allowed in here. I'm right on the number. Perfect. All right. So now one of the cool things about this is that we've set grading constraints. We've set all kinds of different constraints for these parceling areas. So now if I go ahead and grade it again, it's going to go ahead and start to grade it now with these additional constraints of all the parcels on it as well. Okay. So you can see that, the way it's grading is totally different, obviously, than it was before. We were around 30,000 yards before, down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Now we're, 70, 80,000. It's going to continue to climb as it starts to sets all the different constraints and then tries to optimize within those constraints. See where it's cutting, filling, and doing some different things. Now, as an engineer, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, okay, why is it filling so much here? Why is it cutting so much here? And then you can start to do some different things within this thing. If you don't like the way this is grading, if you see something that you could, it's grading, filling too much or cutting too much in a certain area, what can I do to fix that? Okay, can I come in here? Maybe I don't like these roadways. So let's go ahead and turn on the existing contours so we can see them. You can see maybe these roadways in here are not the way, are causing too much. They're causing too much area, too much cut and fill in there. So let's go ahead and get rid of those in there. Let's go ahead and see if we can go ahead and draw in another drive path. I'm going to go ahead and start it here. Let's go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and draw it, something like this instead. All right, so maybe this setup is better for it. And you can see as I do that, it's going to go ahead and start to grade those lots in there. Now you can see that I have some lots sitting here on top of the recreation area, the amenity area now. So I'm going to go ahead and add. Let's go ahead and change a couple of these settings on this driveway points here. Let's go ahead and make these 300-foot radius in here. All right. And then maybe I'm going to say, okay, maybe I don't like that. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and pull this down a little further here, something like this. Then drop this guy down here. Just kind of just pull it around, something like that. All right, looks good. I like the way that's looking. Or maybe I'm going to go ahead and add some, maybe I don't want to add this parcel in here. I'm going to go ahead and put what we call a parcel divider line in here and just draw that in. Cut some of these parcels off in a certain way. Okay, and you can draw them in however you want. You can kind of slide this thing around or that if you like it better. Things like that. So you can play around with different settings in here. I can add things like I'm going to come in here. I'm going to edit this cross section. I'm going to go ahead and apply that 50-foot cross section, right-of-way cross section to it now. It's going to go ahead and add those different sidewalk paths in there. Right. Add that, edit that. Okay, maybe I like that better. Now I'm getting 171 lots, maybe not as many lots on it.
Gerald, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. We have a question.
Okay.
The question is, can you set a maximum cut fill parameter?
You cannot set a maximum cut fill parameter within the software. The software is going to try to optimize the site based on your constraints. Okay, so really in your mind, you're going to have the maximum cut fill parameter in here. Now you can set things like, for instance, if this building pad, for instance, you knew it had to be at a certain elevation, you can set that elevation as a constraint in here. Okay, but as a total site maximum cut fill parameter, you cannot set that within here. You're going to be in charge as the engineer or designer in order to figure out, is this acceptable or not, and then try to change your site constraints in a way that will make it acceptable if it is not. All right, good question. All right. Now we also have some other constraints in here that we can set for the site. Okay, so let's say, for instance, this area in here, maybe this is an environmentally sensitive area. Maybe you're not allowed to do anything in here. I can define an area in here, and I can tell it that it's an existing area, okay, and that means it's not allowed to grade in that area, okay. Or if it's not an existing area, I can also tell it whether it's allowed to have parcels in it. And you can see if I take this area and as I start to move it across these different slots, you'll notice that it's going to start, the lots will start disappearing or moving away based on some different constraints in here. Okay, so I can, all these different areas have some different settings in here that I can set in here to allow or not allow grading, or allow or not allow parcels, or those types of things and settings in there. Okay. Now another cool little thing we can do in here is once we get the grading the way we want, we're happy with it. We're also, if we're concerned about utilities and the way that the site's going to grade, we can come in here and we can set. We also have a little profiling tool. So let's go ahead and open that up. Let's slide this guy over here. Pull you up. All right, and it's going to go ahead and have a profile of that road. Let's go and zoom out a little bit. You'll notice as I move over the profile here on the left, you can see that little ticker kind of moving across the profile on the profile on the right, and the ticker moving on the plan view on the left side. Show you where in the profile it is. Now I can do either a best fit curve to that profile. Right, I can set some minimum K values, minimum tangent lengths in there, and then you can see it kind of start running through some iterations here to try to figure out, okay, based on the grading here, what's the best fit solution to that curve? And kind of pop around here. It's going to run through a little algorithm that does a best fit to that. All right. And once I do that, now I've set this as a constraint. This is the constraint of my solution now. Okay, so if I grade it again based on that, you can see that it's going to start to grade based on that solution now. Okay. Now, if I look at this, and I say, I don't really like having this high point in here. Let's go ahead and get rid of that guy. I don't like you. Let's get rid of you. I want this road to be a little bit higher. So maybe I'm thinking I need to do this so that I can make sure that this is my low point on the site, so I can have everything drained to this point. Maybe I want this to be over here, or however you want it to do it. You can set these parameters yourself. Okay. Now there's going to be a consequence to those parameters. It's great that I'm doing that. Everything's going to drain to this point, but what does that do to my site? You can kind of tell by over here that's going to be doing a lot of cutting over here in this one spot, right? And you can kind of see now you can see it's putting a large amount of cut in this particular area here. You can see the cost of that is significant, right? And these are the different options that I want to start taking a look at. Okay? Now I might also, inside of here, I may also get an error because of that. Maybe now, since I've set that as I cut so much, now I'm going to have some slope problems between this road and this road, or it's connecting these areas and this area. Maybe I have to build a wall over here. Maybe I have to get rid of some of these lots in order to have enough slope to get in here. So as you constrain the site, you may cause problems that then you need to solve. Now, the key to this is you're going to be taking a look at all these different solutions as you're going along. And for a designer, what I want to be able to do is once I get through this and I figure out, okay, I can get the storm sewer, I can get the sanitary sewer, I can get my water all to work in here based on profiles or setting different constraints in here. At the end of that, I want to make sure that I know when I go into my productions drawing environment that I know the solution before I get started. And that is really what's going to save you a lot of time. It's that you've gone through all these iterations. You don't have the plan sheet's not going to pop out on the end of this, not yet anyhow. But you're going to have enough answers in here to know that this solution works. Your client has seen different budgets, costs, things like that. They're going to know, they're going to be happy with those solutions. Okay, so when you get into the design environment, you're not going to have to worry about going back and revising things and doing things, at least based on the information that you have at the time, right? There's always a chance, that maybe they didn't go out and didn't do borings or something like that on site, or there's some other constraint that we didn't know about. But those are the kind of things you can't really avoid. But as far as you know at the time, you have looked at all the different options, the grading solutions, the different types. And figured out a solution that is feasible for the site. Okay, and then you can just remove it as well.
Hey Gerald, I have another question.
All right.
Can you use this for roadway design and show left, center, and right edges in the profile?
We do have some people that are using this for to do some roadway design. One thing that Setups does not account for in its cost is haul distance in here. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you move a piece of dirt from here to here or here to here; it's all the same price. Now, certain long linear roadway projects, that's an issue. It may be a significant cost, so uh, it you have to be wary of that if you use it for that particular use. Now, inside of here, it's going to show you the center line of the existing center line of the road here, the existing and the proposed grades. It's not going to show you the left and right grades in here. You're going to probably, now you can take this, obviously, one of the exports from SiteOps is you're going to be able to export a surface. So if you take the surface that SiteOps produces out to your back-end CAD package, then you'll be able to produce those left and right profiles in those, because there is no, this is just an analysis tool. It's not designed for producing sheet drawings or anything like that. You're going to be doing all that in your back-end CAD package. Okay, but you can export the surfaces and those types of things out of SiteOps in order to show those. Okay. And it's a good lead into my next portion here, which is what do we get out of SiteOps? Okay, so we have some exports in here. Okay, now I can, inside of SiteOps, I can add some different things in here. So let's go ahead and add some I can add, let's go ahead and go under my blocks here. Let's say I want to add some sort of house to all of these different pads. So I'm going to go ahead and use a SketchUp block of a house. I'm going to go ahead and drop that guy in here like this. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and assign that block now. I'm going to pick on my area and pick on my house pads there, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And you can see now, if I go ahead and turn my layout solver, you can see that it's going to go ahead and put that block of a house on all those different pads. Now, this house, as we see it right now, is actually backwards. So you have the option here to, if I pick the parceling area, I can go ahead and spin that block around. So I'm going to go ahead and spin it 180 degrees, spin it around, and you can see now that that pad now shows, you can see that's the garage right there in the front. And what that allows me to do, let's go ahead and grade this real quick. Grade it for a second here. And then I'm going to pull this up in my 3D viewer. Inside of SiteOps here, I'm going to turn on my hardware render. And you can see that it's going to put a house on all of those pads inside of there. Right? You can see I actually had already dropped in some trees and a clubhouse up here, pool, those kinds of things inside of this drawing already as well. And you can add all kinds of different blocks and paths. So let's go ahead and just isolate this layer here. Let's go ahead and go into my blocks here. Let's go ahead and pick on a seasonal tree here. Let's pick on a cherry tree. Drop that guy in here. I'm going to pick on all these custom paths. I'm going to go ahead and make those a block path. I'm going to say I want a tree every 40 foot along those, right? And then I'm going to go up under here under my edit. I'm going to assign a block. I'm going to assign that block to it. All right, and you can see that it's going to go ahead and put those in there. Now, if I take this path and I move it or anything like that, those blocks will go with it as well. See if I move it around, those blocks go with it. All right, let's go ahead and de-isolate that. Let's go ahead and grade it. Second, and then you can see that I can pull this up now in my 3D viewer, put my hardware render on, and you can see that I'm going to have trees and houses and all that good stuff. Now, setups gives you the ability to do these things very quickly, but I'm going to want to export this. Now, setups is not a visualization software per se. You can see some visuals in it, and you can add some visuals, but we want the ability to export this. So we have a bunch of different exports that you can put in here. You can export, first of all, you can export all of this stuff to either a DGN or DWG file in here, so you can export all that data. It also exports a LandXML file, which is going to have all of your surface information, some piping information, that kind of thing as well. And then we can also export this to Google Earth or Luminar T. So let's go ahead and go to Google Earth first. Now I can export to blocks. That takes a little more time. I'll just go ahead and export this to Google Earth real quick. What we just drew in there, and since it's geolocated now, it's going to go ahead and pull this site up, and it's going to go ahead and drop that right in the correct location because it knows where that site was. Okay. Now you can also export this to SketchUp as well. Well, that's pulling up. Let me pull up the SketchUp model. So this is the output to SketchUp. That was from my original layout. So you can see that. So you can see it has all the sidewalks and all the different house types, and you can get down in here, and it has a real surface to it as well. So you can see if you look at the streets and you look at the different landscape in here, you can kind of spin through here and see what the intersection is going to look like, whatever, those kinds of things. So you can add as much or as little detail as you want to in here, or you can just have, this is the output to Google Earth in here as well, right? It's a good thing that you can send to clients, send KMZ files to clients. This is what this site's going to look like, or something you share with the public. And these are great little tools for public presentations, zoning, rezoning meetings, things like that. You always have people that are concerned about how this is going to look next to my house and those kinds of things. You can just simply pull down and say, okay, this is what it's going to look like next to your house, right? Okay. Don't use it if it doesn't help you. All right. And then you can also export this. The other export out of here is the Luminar T. This is more of a high-end visualization tool. And you can add all kinds of cool things in here. This is a Luminar T model here. Okay, and you can see that I've added the trees along the road. You can see I added some lights, some different things like that in here. Okay, and you can see that I've draped the imagery of the underlay all around here as well, so I can get some context around the site. You can see you can add things like you can see the car driving through the site. You can see those types of things. Luminar T is very cool too because you can do all kinds of things in here. I can change things like the season. Like if I want it to be a different season, you can see the trees will change, and as it slides around, grass will turn brown. All the trees will disappear. The leaves will disappear, and I can do things like that. I can add things like wind to the plants. Let's go ahead and turn up the intensity a little bit here. You can see the wind will start blowing the trees. Things like that. I can go from day to night. So if I go to nighttime, you'll be able to see the light posts start to light up here. That I added some lights in here, and you'll see the cars. Car might drive through here in a second. See some different things like that in here as we're going along. So a lot of cool little things you can do in here. One of the difficult things with all of these different tools is the ability to build surfaces. All right, so the ability to build surfaces and things like that, and those are easy output from setups to these different software packages, so you can have a real three-dimensional surface inside of it.
Gerald, we have a question about this. What is the driveway associated with? Is that part of the block?
All right. Let's go back into setups here real quick. So what is the driveway associated with? On these, the driveway is not associated with anything in particular in here. So let's go ahead and. The driveway is not associated with the blocks in here. These are different paths that I created along here. You can see that's actually on the other driveway path that I created on. So it is not associated with the block. In this case, you're going to have to draw in the paths for those areas in here. But the driveway is associated with the lots. And so if I, like any of these things that I move around inside of here, the parcels are going to adjust. These trees and things like that, that's something you're going to want to do at the end of your project. Once you have a determination, it looks good, go ahead and add that in. All right. Now, the other piece of this too is the outputs as far as this goes. And we talked a little bit about cost things. This is an optimized solution for the site we were just looking at in here. And you can see that it has, this is the cost report you get out of site ops. Clearing costs, so it's very detailed, earth cut, fill, any compaction factors that I've used on the site. If you have rock export, if you've had some boring points, you can add those in. If we did piping on this, we would have had some pipe cut and fill for the trenching on there as well. Any retaining wall costs. Asphalt paving, remember we put materials and everything so it knows if it's light duty, heavy duty, concrete, curb and gutter, sidewalk, all of those different parameters set in here. Some different piping outputs if we did storm sewer on it, and then a little PDF or a little site plan that kind of shows you some different things, including the impervious surface on the site. So it knows the surface types, so it will calculate that, and then some 3D isometrics. So you get that in PDF format. You also get that in Excel as well, so that you can create your own spreadsheet based on, you can add some more detail to the spreadsheets as well. All right. So any questions? Let's go ahead and pull this guy up here.
Yep, Gerald, I have a couple questions here. The first one, can you show a walkout condition?
You can. So one of the settings, let's see, we're good walkout condition here. On it. One of the settings in here is on any side of this road over here. So let's say you can see that there's a red and a green side to the road. Right. And then I can come in here and I can edit that side of the road here. And I can override the parcel, actually, edit that one. I can override the parcel conditions here. So I can override the parcel walls, right? And I can say that, and I'm going to do for an let's say a walkout condition. Let's say I'm going to do negative 9 in the front, right? Because I want it to dig the basement in there, right? And then I want it to be level in the back. And apply that to the path, and I'm going to hit the grading solver. And then you'll see on this side now, where I added that, you can see that's going to put that negative 9 foot in there along that edge. Okay, so that's how you do that in site ops. You can set those constraints in there, and you can see that now on the edge of those buildings, it's building that retaining wall. That's that gray line showing. Okay, so it accounts for the cut and the cut for those basement lots in those areas as well.
Okay, so the next question is, can you edit constraints for individual or groups of parcels and roads, or do they need to be set up as separate entities? This would accommodate different building sizes, desired lot grading, etc.
So there's two ways to handle it. Either you're going to do a different area. So let's say that you want this side to be a different size lot, let's say, than the other side. So you can come in here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the block off this thing. I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to go ahead and just draw a path here. So I'm going to say that I want everything along here to be a different type of parcel. All right, so I'm going to go in here, and let's go ahead and edit, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the area here. So I want to cut this into 2 pieces. Now I'm going to cut it with this guy. All right, so now this area now is a separate area down here. Right, and then I'm going to go ahead and edit this area over here. Now let's say I want these to be, let's use the 50-foot singles on this. Apply that in here. All right, now so it's going to go ahead and change this area down here. Yes. wider line in here. And then it's going to go ahead and add. So, yeah. And then it's going to go ahead and add those lots on that particular side down here. Right, so now these two sections, this has the 62-foot lots, this side has the 50-foot lots. You can do it that way, or you can also do it just like we did on the building settings over here. If I wanted just this street within that whole parcel to be different, I'm going to pick on Edit. I'm going to go ahead and override the parcels here. Let's say I want these to be minimum parcel frontage on this to be 50 foot. Then I'm going to go ahead and change my override the building layout. Maybe I want this to be 40. Same depth is fine. Apply that, and then it's going to go ahead and change that side of the street to a new configuration. So two ways you can handle that. All right.
Can this software show underground utilities?
No, it doesn't show the underground utilities. The only thing that you can do within the software in order to identify where it is we can, it does do some stormwater in here that you can have outfall to a point, or let's say that we want to go ahead and offset some something. Let's say we want to have, we know that we're going to have a water line down the side of the center line of the road here. Okay, I can add this, make this a utility, make this a 8-inch water line. Say it's going to be per foot, and say it's going to be $100 per foot. Right now, the software is going to calculate this as a cost. This will show up in your cost report. So you can add these different items as these will output to your backend CAD package as well as a somewhat of a placeholder that will show up now in my cost report. So you can see in my cost report now, down here under miscellaneous costs, that 8-inch water line will show up as a cost item. But it won't design three-dimensionally for it. All right.
Okay. Another question. Does this handle drainage?
It does. Okay, so let's go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and open. Check this one. Let's go ahead and open one of these guys up here. So Setups does a very conceptual drainage design. Okay, and one of the things that Setups does in here, and it just uses the rational method design in here. And under our default, these are the default constraints, and this is how it's kind of figuring out how to what's widths and things like that to put on roads and certain things like that. These are the layout constraints. You can see different widths of different things. These come populated with some standard things. You can also change these to meet your design and save these as templates so that you can use them over and over again as well. You can see grading constraints here, minimum, maximum slopes, those kind of things. But from the stormwater, we have some different constraints here for runoff coefficients for different types of areas. Okay, so like I said, it's using the rational method here. What's your Manning's N? Minimum maximum cover for your pipes, minimum maximum slope for your pipes, minimum maximum length for your pipes, those kind of things. And then down here at the bottom, what's the drainage area for the pipe, maximum drainage area for each inlet, what's the rainfall intensity. And now based on that, now we only have one pond on this site. So on this site, it's going to drain this whole thing down to this point. Now you can argue about the wisdom of that. Not probably going to want to have more than one in real life, but this demonstration will work. I'm going to go ahead and grade this real quick. And then up here at the top, I have what's called a utility solver. I'm going to go ahead and hit utility solver, and it's going to go ahead and pipe the site now down to that outfall pond down at the bottom of the site. Okay, and then you can see it's going to put all kinds of inlets and different things along the street in order to pipe the site. Now, anywhere where it shows a red pipe means that it's got a constraint problem, and then it's going to outfall to this point here. Okay. Now, when we actually optimize this, and when we submit this to optimization, which is this little button up here, you can optimize for grading and piping. It will go ahead and run through this and try to. It's going to clean up all these pipes and do a bunch of. Obviously, you don't want 4 pipes in this area. Now, is the solution going to be perfect? It won't be. It's really conceptual in nature. But what it's going to do is, if I've set a constraint on this pond down here, that I think I'm going to have an outfall problem down here, I set this constraint. It's going to go through every iteration. It might go through 100 million different iterations to find a grading and piping solution that outfalls to this pond, and meets all of your constraints. Okay. Like I said, it will clean up this piping solution quite a bit. Just dropping them all over the place because it's only piping wherever when I grade this. When I hit exit on this, it pipes that, right? But it's not a finished solution. It's just really what we're checking for here is to see if I've set any grading constraints that it can't meet inside of here. All right. All right, Katie. Any more questions?
Okay, thank you, Gerald. That's all we have for now.